Welcome to the Nurturing Fathers podcast, a show dedicated to helping men succeed at the most challenging and rewarding job they'll ever have, being a dad. Your hosts are Mark Perlman, the creator and founder of the Nurturing Fathers program, and his son, Corey Perlman, who facilitates the program at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary and is also a father of 2 young children. It's time to add tools to your Nurturing Fathers toolbox. Mark and Corey, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Nurturing Fathers podcast. My name is Corey Perlman, and I'm here with my papo, Mark Perlman.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be with you again. Glad to be here with Corey. We are selecting a topic today that is important to us and unique in that it is working with incarcerated fathers, incarcerated men who, for whatever reason, find themselves in prison or in jail. And our hope is that we can help them use that time to benefit themselves and their families. So when I created the Nurturing Fathers program, I did so because of my love of fathering and my desire to share the skills and attitudes that help us be the best dads we can be. And to bring the program into the situation of incarceration, where men are there often for extended periods of time and a whole lot of time on their hands, the thought excited me to give these men something that would make a real difference in their lives. And I think one of the markers of success when they get out of prison is how well they can bond with their children and families. And if they can succeed in doing that, the chances of them not coming back, the word recidivism comes to mind, which is a huge issue in prison. Maybe there will be less recidivism and just healthier and happier families.
I completely agree with you, Dad. And just to kind of set the stage of where we're going to go on this show, this one's the most obviously near and dear to my heart because it's where I intersected with what you did with the Nurturing Fathers program and where I first got my start with the Nurturing Fathers program. And I want to give some love to my buddy Des Thornton because he's the one who originally introduced me to the Atlanta Federal Prison system and got the Nurturing Fathers program in there in a very short period of time. And so when I became a dad, I got way more interested in what my father did, obviously, with that. And then as I started wanting to dive in a little bit more to this program, this opportunity presented itself to conduct the Nurturing Fathers program inside the Atlanta Federal Prison. Now, let me be very clear that it was not the first time the program had been in there. It's been in different prison systems throughout the country, but it was certainly my first opportunity there. And man, what an amazing experience it's been.
When I saw Corey do this, I was impressed and I must say a little bit surprised because it didn't surprise me that he'd get more interested in my Nurturing Fathers program when he became a father. It didn't surprise me that he would do the Nurturing Fathers program because Corey is a great verbal person and I know loves to help and do things for other people. But when he told me he was going into the prison system and the federal prison system, that was surprising to me. That's something I myself had not done. And I was impressed that he was going to do it. So what was your thought or connection in taking Nurturing Fathers into the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary?
It was one of those things, I think, if everybody has these different experiences in their lives where it wasn't something that I had intended to do, but I had to listen to the universe pulling me in that direction. So everything was just saying, yes, 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 go, 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 and lining up to do it. And the only person to get in the way of it would have been me. And so I just allowed, again, the universe to take me there. And Des, which again, lots of love to Des for that. But people ask me all the time, probably the number one question I get is, was I scared or am I scared when I go in there? And the answer is 100% no. And I know that sounds strange because it is, a very intense, scary place, but it's such a right place for me to be. It's like the one time in my life from a business perspective or outside my family perspective where I just felt like everything was right. And so I always just feel like that I'm supposed to be there. And so there's never really been a fear in my heart whenever I go over there. And then the other thing is, people ask about the experience all the time. And as Dad said, I've had a lot of presentation and group experience before, but those men, they're a different kind of men. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. They are so thankful that we're there. They're so honored that I took the time to be there. And they're so real and authentic. And they want that back. That was one of the best pieces of advice Des ever gave to me. He said, don't have anything else going on in your mind. Don't come in with any preconceived notions or things that are clouding, your focus. Really be present. And he was absolutely right because they will sniff that right out of you if you're not careful. And so I just try to push everything aside when I get in there and be there for the men for the time that I'm there.
So on Thursday afternoons, Corey goes in there, and sometime late Thursday afternoon, I get a call from Corey most weeks, and he's driving home, and he's going to debrief me a little bit on how it went. So what I was most impressed by early on is Corey would say often, "Dad, it's the most important afternoon of my week. It's the most positive afternoon of my week," and it surprised me in a present situation. So where were you coming from with that?
It was because of just the moments that would come out of there. I mean, some of the surprises that I would say is that these men, they so badly want to get it right. And they want to get it right with their kids. And they don't want their children to follow in their footsteps with where they are. And it's an impassioned plea that they're making there, that I don't want this to be the journey that my kids go on. And so, they're willing to do whatever it takes at that moment. And so we usually set the stage with that their children are not destined to have the same path as they do. Some of the breakthroughs that come out of there, and like, as Dad said, they are going to get out probably within the next 5 years in most cases of the groups that I work with. And so the question is what is the next generation going to do? And I always tell them that at the end of their lives, if they made their children, they gave them the opportunity to have successful lives and paved a way for them to be able to have good experiences in the world, then that's it. They've won. And I don't care what mistakes that they've made in the past. And we kind of get to that place, and it's just very, very powerful.
Yeah. And Corey and I have said so many times about this work with fathering that, whether you're a CEO of a corporation, whether you're an author, whether you're an incarcerated man, at the end of the day, when we lay our heads down, what is most important to us, and for pretty much universally for fathers, their kids and how their kids have turned out, and the family life, but children in particular are our legacy and perhaps our most important. That's why I'm so fond of saying fathering is the most important job we do, because I think it is. And in terms of our final priorities, I think it looms right at the very top of it all. Corey, what about some memorable characters and some, you've mentioned some of these fellows by name. We won't use names now, but you've met some really memorable characters. Can you think of a couple?
Definitely. In each class, there's definitely a couple of standouts that, really bring the class to life. And I know that I've been as much of a student as I have been a facilitator in the programs. And so there was one such case where, and I'll say his name because he wouldn't mind, Charles Silk Dunn, who's living a great life outside of prison now and is a motivational speaker and all that. But he was in one of my first classes, and he was just an all-star in the class. And at one point, I was having a challenge with Talia sharing her toys. And I share this story almost in every program I'm in from here on out. But I was telling them that every time, friends would come over, Talia wouldn't share her toys. And it was driving me and my wife, Jess, nuts. And Silk was just sitting there kind of listening. And Silk, as Silk always does, says, Corey, can I ask you a question? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he said, what if I, came to your house one day and I had little Silk with me, and we had a play date set up, and we came to your house, and little Silk and Talia went off to play, and I was sitting there at the front door with you, and I asked you if I could borrow your car. What would you say? And I said, well, Silk, that's a little bit of a strange question, I must say, but I've gotten to know you pretty well, and I'd actually be okay with that, Silk. I think I'd let you borrow my car. And he's like, okay. So what if I asked you if I could borrow your house? Would you be okay with me borrowing your house for a couple of days? It's getting a little far here, Silk. I'm not sure I'm going to let you borrow my house. What about your wife? Would you let me borrow your wife? Now you've crossed the line, Silk. Now I'm offended, kind of thing. And he said, okay, it's okay. This is just hypothetical. He said, Corey, this is how Talia feels when kids come over to her house. These are her most prized possessions. And so when they come in and they take her toys, that's how she feels. And I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God, like that's the true meaning of empathy, is to really understand what Talia in her little world is going through when somebody comes over and starts playing with her prized possessions. And so it was just an eye-opening moment for me. I was just like, holy shit. This is a guy that just gave me the advice of a lifetime, and it was behind prison walls. It's crazy.
Yeah. Anybody else in terms of the many men and characters? And
Yeah, we've had one on the podcast. He talked about it when he first came in there. He had a name for hitting his kids. They're called pow pows. And it was just a part of their world, is that how they discipline their kids, both him and his wife, is they would give him pow pows. And throughout the Nurturing Fathers program, I could see he was just studying the program and just taking it all in. And one morning I came back, and probably in 7 or 8, and he walked in and he looked at me and he said, "No more pow pows." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I've talked to my wife and we've made a decision between the two of us that from this point forward, no more pow pows. We're going to discipline our children in different ways that do not include physically touching them." And so pow pows are out of the toolbox in terms of his discipline. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. And to this day, we've talked to him not too long ago. He's still no more pow pows.
That's great.
And then the last one that just comes to mind real quick is one that's recent. I told Dad about this recently, and this guy came in and he was just a hostage among hostages. He did not want to be there, man. He was frustrated and pissed off to be there. And the fact that because of the way the prison system works, we had missed like 3 or 4 weeks in between, and he had showed up to be there. And of course, I wasn't there, and he was just not happy about it. And so he came in frustrated and made it very clear to me. And he said, "I don't want to be here." And I said, "Well, I'm going to give you a choice. I want you to be here, but I'm also not going to be offended if you leave. But I will tell you that I believe that you would be an important part of this class if you stay. And I think you'll be happy that you did." And he looked at me and we kind of just had this moment, and he said, "Fine." And he just stayed. 2 classes later, he had just finished answering a question that I had given the group that was just a mind blowing answer about men and feelings. Oh, it was about physical discipline. And this guy's a big, menacing looking figure. And if there was anybody that I would ever stereotype to the point that he probably physically, hit his kids, it would be this guy. And when we were talking about this, he said, "No, I don't ever touch my kids. And let me tell you why." And he just shared this most profound, amazing answer. And so at the end of the class, I came up to him and I said, "Man, I'm so glad you're here." And he put his arm around me and he's like, "I'm really glad I stayed." And it was just a really cool moment. So
Wow. It's good stuff. I appreciate it. So, the Nurturing Fathers program was created, as I've mentioned so many times, to help men be really good fathers. But you cannot be a better father without being a better man. So, part of what is taught here are also life skills, personal skills, and raising questions about men and masculinity that in our culture we don't answer or discuss as often as we could. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a good man? Where does caring come in? Where does communication come in? Where does nurturing come in? Is nurturing even part of the male definition of manhood and fatherhood? It used to be only on the female side. So it's a whole new world that opens up. So I think with the life skills and personal skills, men graduate the program not only being better fathers, but being better men. And for incarcerated fathers, this rates really high on what I hope personally they would get out of that experience and the time that they have there to come out from their point of view, not necessarily mine, but from their point of view, better than what they came in. And their ability to do family and fathering is really, really important to them. In fact, so much so that some of the things that the men would not do for themselves, they will do through the eyes of their children. If it was good for their children and if it would make for better relationships and better outcomes, they will do these things for their children that they might not do for themselves. So I'm very proud of Corey for his work there, and the results are enormous. Nothing pleases me more than to learn that the Nurturing Fathers used in an incarcerated setting. I want to give a little shout out to the Department of Public Safety in North Carolina, where they've implemented Nurturing Fathers throughout their system, all minimum and medium security facilities. And they've been collecting data for over 10 years, and it is really impressive and delightful to see the changes in these men.
the thing that's happening too, just so you all just know the profound impact, not by any stretch by me, but just out in the communities and the prison communities when this is taking place, is that they're breaking the cycle. These men are breaking the cycle. We all have to remember that generation upon generation upon generation of uninvolved fathers, abusive fathers, neglect, all that kind of thing that these men have been through to put them in the place that they are in. They are now changing the trajectory of future generations of their family and their children and their children's children. And I just think that that is like the most amazing thing. And I give them all the respect in the world. I had a good childhood. A lot of you listening probably had a pretty good childhood. These guys didn't. And the fact that they are changing that for future generations, to me, is they're breaking the cycle, and it's so unbelievably powerful. So thank you, Father, for creating this program, creating these opportunities for us to be able to get in to these places and deliver a curriculum, a new set of tools, a new world for a lot of these guys on how to be able to be a involved dad and discipline their kids through nurturing instead of non-nurturing practices, which is literally changing the world.
Thank you, Corey Perlman. Thanks for being who you are, the man, the son, the father to your children. Those of us who are blessed to be grandparents, there is nothing quite as delightful as being with the grandkids, but a whole nother dimension of that is to watch your own children as parents. And that has been really special for me and Kate and Corey and Jamie. I'm very proud of both of my boys and just happy to spend time with you and see the men that you become.
Thank you, sir. That wraps up another episode. This was a fun one to talk about. Please do jump on the Facebook page or the different podcast platforms that you listen to and shoot us a review, give us a comment or a like. And, a lot of guys have asked about ways to be able to get involved in this particular area. Feel free to reach out. We can definitely try to find ways to get you involved, whether it be implementing the Nurturing Fathers program in a prison in your area. It doesn't have to be a prison. It can be in different communities. I've done it at addiction recovery centers. I've done it in normal, everyday public places as well. So the sky's the limit.
Centers, halfway houses, YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, anywhere fathers and kids might be or get together. Possibility for this kind of learning experience.
Yeah, so let us know. Please do reach out, on the page or at nurturingfathers@gmail.com. Nurturingfathers@gmail.com will get you to us as well.
Thank you all for all you do, and please do help us spread the word. We really do appreciate that.
Much love. Talk to you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Nurturing Fathers podcast. Have questions or comments? Join the conversation at facebook.com/nurturingfathers or email us at nurturingfathers@gmail.com.